Hey everyone, and welcome to BSD Synergy. I'm your host Mason Egger, and this week's episode is entitled Cast Your NetBSD. First things first, I want to welcome all of my new subscribers this week, and a big shout out and thank you to the BSD Now podcast. They featured me on their podcast last week, and I'm pretty sure that's where all of my new subscribers have come from. So welcome. I hope you like the channel. My channel focuses more on the history and basic little introductory videos to BSD concepts and things. Which will eventually get more complex as it goes on, so I hope you like it. This week we're going to be talking about NetBSD. Now, one of the things I do want to say for this video and for next week's video, where I'm going to be covering Dragonfly BSD, is these are two flavors of BSD that I have actually never worked with. I got to play around with NetBSD for quite a bit while I was writing the show notes for this video, and I have to say that it's pretty nifty and pretty weird at the same time. Coming from FreeBSD and OpenBSD land, it's got its similarities, but it's got some things that I'm like, whoa, that's different. So, you might want to fact check me on some of the things that I say in this week's video. That being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. So, NetBSD started from BSD Net 2 in 1993. And according to their website, they apparently preceded FreeBSD by a couple of months. So that makes it the oldest child of the BSD family right now. And it's weird that it's a child, but all the children of BSD Net 2, it's a pretty common fork. And actually, OpenBSD forked NetBSD later on down the road. If you watched last week's video on OpenBSD, OpenBSD is a fork of NetBSD, and I have to say that NetBSD, while it did get some things from FreeBSD, it does remind me more of OpenBSD than it does FreeBSD. So the main focus of NetBSD is for clean design and well-architected solutions. This does sometimes cause some bleeding-edge technologies and newer support for drivers or software packages to not quite get into the BSD tree as early as they do on other BSDs and other Linux-based distros, but eventually it does get there, and it's mostly because of the meticulousness of the NetBSD team. They focus on portable code that runs everywhere, and of course all of their software is BSD licensed. Okay, so some interesting things about NetBSD that I found. There's probably tons of them. These are just some of the things that while I was doing my research, these caught my eye. They have a portable build framework to facilitate cross-compiling, which is pretty nifty. Another really interesting feature that they have is something called rump kernels, and I didn't really know much about rump kernels going into this, and I still really don't, but I've got a general idea of what they do. This is going along the security lines, and it's mostly around file system drivers. So file system drivers are vulnerable to consistency errors in file system images. What this vulnerability means is whenever an untrusted file system is mounted using an in-kernel driver, you can pretty much expect that you're going to be compromised. This kind of vulnerability, if you work in a big security company, like I do, they ask you not to bring in any outside devices and plug them in because you never know where they came from. You might have picked it up off the ground and it could have been planted there by somebody malicious trying to get access to your systems. Now, there are some pretty large workarounds for this kind of thing. You could mount it inside of a virtual machine or a sandbox or something along that. But NetBSD allows transparent mounting of an untrusted file system by running the kernel driver in a rump kernel that's actually being run inside of userland. This ensures that the driver is isolated, and any damage that this malicious file system does, it's done on a userland process. These rump kernels also aid in kernel development by allowing kernels to be developed in a test-driven manner. If you can run your kernel in user space, it's a lot easier than having to recompile and all of that. So it helps them avoid throwaways that there are tests that are hard-coded in for I'm running this virtual environment or this physical environment for this kernel. It allows for them to actually enhance the development of their kernel development, and that's a really cool feature, I have to say. And then one of the weirdest things that I had seen in my journeys through the NetBSD scape is that kernel scripting is done in Lua. And what? Okay, so now the thing that most people know NetBSD about, and the thing that NetBSD has, is the reputation. The NetBSD has a reputation, and it goes with this old saying, of course it runs on NetBSD, or everything runs on NetBSD, including your toaster. It's an old joke that the NetBSD mantra was, let's make it run on anything and everything we possibly can. So that's what they did. They developed it for all sorts of systems. There are two tiers of supported platforms. There's a tier 1 and a tier 2. Tier 1 platforms are focused on by the NetBSD project. These are the ones that they actively develop and that are supported by the project. The tier 2 are organic, which they're highly valued by NetBSD, but not tightly mandated like the tier 1s. The tier 1s have a lot of restrictions on what you can do with them. The tier 2s really don't have that much. They're kind of more of like a community-based thing. And there is a tier 3, which is basically where old platforms go to die. It's like the Elephant Graveyard and the Lion King. Okay, so the list of tier 1s that they support are AMD 64, EVB ARM, EVB MIPS, EVB PP PowerPC, HPC ARM, i386, Spark 64, and Zen for hypervisor support. Now the tier 2 list is much larger. Remember that the tier 1 list that I just went over are things that NetBSD actively works on. And then the tier 2 are the community ones. And here we go. Acorn 32, Algor, Alpha, Amiga, Amiga PowerPC, Arc, Atari, Bebox, Cats, Sesfic, Cobalt, Sega Dreamcast. You can run that. Okay. EMIPS, Epoch 32, EVB SH3, EWS 4800 MIPS, HP 300, HPPA, HPC MIPS. They have high performance clusters for MIPS? Okay. That's probably not what that is, but that's what? HPCSH, IA64, IBM NWS, Lionix, Landisk, Luna 68K, Mac 68K, Mac PowerPC, MIPS CO, MMEYE, MMEYE, what the hell? MVM E68K. Holy f***, the list keeps going. MVM EPPC, Netwinder, News 68K, News MIPS, Next 68K, OFPPC, PMAX, Prep, RS6000, Sandpoint, SB MIPS, SGI MIPS, Shark, Spark, Sun 2, Sun 3, VAX, X68K, and Zaris. Okay, I'll be real honest. I knew like 3 of those. I know what MIPS is, I know what some of these things are, but I have never heard of anything of half of those, more than half of those. Which probably means most of the time, whenever I haven't heard of something, it means it happened long before I was born. And the fact that they still support hardware going that far back is really interesting. Now, some of the supported architectures, so, those were just the platforms, but the actual architectures, the instruction set codes that they support are Alpha, ARM, HPPA, i386, M68010, so M68010, M68K, MIPS EB, MIPS EL, PowerPC, SH3EB, SH3EL, Spark, Spark 64, VAX, and X8664. As you may have heard, a lot of those are also embedded boards. EVB ARM and EVB MIPS support many embedded and development boards, so you really can run this on just about anything. So who is NetBSD for? I've never used it. I'm trying to think of where in my infrastructure that I can use NetBSD. Who knows? Maybe I'll build a web server with it, or maybe I don't know. I don't know what I would use for it, but I'm gonna find something out. I think I'm gonna play with it on some of my embedded boards. So who is this for? This is a quote taken directly from the NetBSD project. The NetBSD project provides a freely available and redistributable system that professionals, hobbyists, and researchers can use in whatever manner they like. It's ideal for those who want to learn Unix, since it adheres to Unix and POSIX standards, and it runs on hardware many would have thought to be beyond obsolete. Obsolete, not obsolete. So I don't really know. I'm surprised I've never used this before. I'm known, and I'm the master of bringing back to life old hardware. None of the hardware that I have in my apartment and that I've used, other than the PFSense server that y'all saw on episode 2, and then my laptop, which I bought as a graduation for myself, none of the machines in my apartment are younger than 10 years old, and I have no desire to change them. All of my development and internal server stuff, what do I have? I have an Optiplex 755 running a Core 2 Duo. I have a Dell Precision T3400 running a Core 2 Duo. Both of those are maxed out with their motherboard capacity of 8 gigabytes of RAM. I think the Precision can go a little bit higher, but finding DDR2 RAM DIMMs that are larger than 2 gigs nowadays, it would almost be cheaper for me to buy a new machine. And then I have this PowerEdge T310 which has a Xeon in it. That might not quite be 10 years old, but like I have a lot of old hardware, and my rule of hardware and obsolete hardware is unless it's a famous piece of hardware, like if I got my hands on a Mac 2, then of course I would love it. But if the hardware is older than me, then it's probably obsolete. And it seems like NetBSD still provides support for a ton of things that are like they are older than me. Now that being said, let's go ahead and go into the demo. I think it's going to be a pretty good demo. Okay, and here we go. This is the boot installer disk for NetBSD 7.0.1. Now I have to say, that's already different. That's not, that's, I'm used to a splash screen with like a, the little BSD or OpenBSD, but that was a different screen. It's a little bit different than what I'm used to. Oh, they let me choose languages at the beginning. Okay, English, US English. Oh, I should have done it in German, auf Deutsch. Let's install NetBSD. You choosing to install blah blah blah. Yes, I do. WD. We're gonna let them choose the geometry. Use the entire disk. Yeah. Ooh. It's probably just bitching because it's the, again, VirtualBox. We'll go ahead and use the existing partition size. Okay, those look familiar. That looks like OpenBSD's part. Like, those look similar to the OpenBSD partitions, which makes me wonder whenever the split happened from NetBSD that they didn't keep their partitioning system. So that's interesting. Name of it, BSD Synergy, of course. Shall we continue? Yes, we shall. And now it's installing, and it finished. And that was fast. The normal BIOS. Wow, it lets you choose all the COM ports and existing boot blocks. So this is, I'm guessing this is for older hard. But what the hell is a serial baud rate? If you watch my pfSense video, you'll know that it wasn't until I got that machine I was actually ever forced to use serial, and it's the first time in my life, and I'm 23 years old. So yeah, sorry to make some of you in the audience feel old, but I've never actually had to work with serial because most of the servers I worked on actually did have VGA, or at least SSH. I think maybe one time on a Cisco switch, an old one, and we had it in our really outdated security lab at Texas State. I think I had to use it to get in there once when I borked the crap out of it, but other than that, like, I've never really used serial much. Okay, so it gives you a full installation without X11, a minimal installation, a custom installation, which I don't know what, or we can abandon it. Most people tell you that you can quit things. We can abandon our installation. That's hilarious. We're just gonna go ahead and do an installation without X11. The sets are from the CV-ROM. And there we go. And now we hit enter to continue. Okay, so this is something that I like. This is different. This is completely different from any other BSD that I've ever worked on. I can configure all of this stuff just by choosing to configure it here, or I can leave it alone. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to configure the network. Media type auto select, and we're going to let it auto config. It's going to go out and basically do a DH client and go out and get a DHCP license from me. And I get to set the host name again. I wonder what the difference is between that and the other one that I did. These okay? Yeah, man, it does some weird shit because it's seeing my pfSense and all my stuff. It's seeing the name server and all that, but it's doing the host ID is not my network. I think it's the network of the VBOC of virtual machine. It's just weird. Virtual machine does some weird shit. Or VirtualBox, I'm sorry. Is this network information you entered accurate? Yes, it is. Okay, so now I have configured the network. Time zone, I might as well set it right. Honestly, it doesn't make that much of a difference to this, but might as well show you how it works. Root shell. This is cool. I like this. I can choose to go to default to corn shell. Let's default to corn shell. Change root password. By default, it's empty, so you can actually install this without setting a root password and use type in root and you go. I don't know if I've ever. I think you can leave root password blank on the other BSD installs, but like normally it asks you, and it's like, are you sure? This one, if you just like hitting enter the whole time and you go through it, you might realize what you've done, and then you don't have any password, which isn't bad. I mean, you'll realize really quick once you go in there. But you know, security issues. So enable installation of binary packages. Yes. So this is actually how you get the binary system. So one of the cool things about NetBSD is there's PKG source. PKG source is the repository, or the, you know, it has the binaries, but it also has the source file. So I find that that's interesting. It does is it basically goes out at the beginning. If you don't choose to have this installed, you won't have a package manager. You won't have any. You won't have the binary files. So you have to actually use this to do it. So, and you can. There's a lot of different things that you can do here that I don't know a lot of. So whenever I get NetBSD going on in my environment, I'll learn about it. But if you don't do this, you're not going to have packages on your base NetBSD install. And it is going ahead and it's going out and getting it. GPG keys, update, processing. Okay, so now we have the packages. And now we use pkgin install to actually do it. So pkgin is actually the package manager. So the PKG source is not your package manager. It uses the binaries, and it's the collection of the binaries. Now the interesting thing is PKG source can be used across all BSDs and can even be used on Linux. It is literally just a collection of source code and binaries that you can use for your system. Now it originated in NetBSD, but it is ported to everything else. And that's goes back to one of their goals is they not only want to have their operating system be portable, but they want the software they write for the operating system to be portable too. And I've seen a couple things on the internet about using FreeBSD and PKG source, and maybe I'll do a video on that. You know, if you want to see that, leave a comment below, and we'll go over about how to use PKG source in FreeBSD. You hit enter to continue, and I actually want to get the source. And we're going to go ahead and fetch and unpack the source. Now this takes a little bit longer than the binaries, but no problem. I shall sit here and entertain you. So I have to say that so far the NetBSD experience is really interesting. Like it's different. I was going through this earlier, testing some stuff out, and I was like, wow, this is pretty nifty, and it's different. I'm used to doing stuff on FreeBSD. I'm used to doing stuff on OpenBSD, but I've never journeyed into NetBSD land. I've heard of it, and I've known some things about it. And I know more about NetBSD than I do about Dragonfly BSD, which I'm covering next week. The only thing I know about Dragonfly BSD is that it's called Dragonfly BSD. So hope you're looking forward to that video. It's going to be pretty interesting. But when I was installing this earlier, I was actually like talking to myself. Whenever I talk to myself in a lower voice, you know, not loud at the top of my voice, but, you know, kind of, oh shit, what the heck go there? Whenever I'm doing this stuff and like testing some things, and I should have been recording it because so many things in this installation just caught me by surprise, and I was like, wow, this is really different. It's weird. So I probably should have done that, and I probably would have gotten more likes on that video than anything else because I was saying some weird stuff and it was funny. So we're almost done with the what are we doing? Target root user. Okay, so we're actually getting the tar. We're undoing the tar. So that's cool. And there we go. We now have the source files installed. And now I can enable SSHD, NTP, run NTP date, boot. I can enable LVM. And now we're good. And I hit enter to continue. And now I will reboot the computer. And let's see if I can get I'm not going to win. I never win this race. And there he goes. So I'm going to have to close this real quick. I'm never quick enough at unmounting the ISO. And here we go. We're going to boot normally. And here we go. We are now in NetBSD. Okay. We recommend you create a non-root account. Oh, that's sweet of them. Okay, so if I want to actually build something from source on NetBSD, I go into user, and instead of ports like we're used to on FreeBSD and OpenBSD, we PKG source. Yeah. And now, as you see, these are the ports for NetBSD. Okay, let's go ahead and build log rotate. So cd log rotate. Log rotate. Guess you don't do. Okay, and now we're installing log rotate. If this ends up taking a long time, I'm going to shorten it down. But there you go. It's really similar. You know, pretty much the same thing. The only thing is the files are located in a different place. You would use /user pkg source to get to it. Okay, and now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to use. Uh, okay, and it installed successfully. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use the package manager. So it's basically just pkg in install vim. Yes, I want to get to vim. We are downloading it. Okay, and now we have vim. Hooray. So pkgin is actually a rather robust package manager. I was just looking at it, and you know, it's got a lot of commands and shortcuts. List available packages, installed packages, install, update, remove, upgrade, full update all packages to their newer versions. That's pretty cool. Like I want the system up, bring it up. Show dependencies, show the full dependencies, show reverse dependencies recursively. That's cool. Show category, package category, all categories, keep, unkeep. This is some pretty cool stuff. You know, I'm getting more and more into NetBSD. I really am gonna have to try this thing out. That is a package manager. That is, yes, I like it. Cool. So that's all I have this week for NetBSD. If you have any suggestions for me to do for shows in the future, whether it be any BSD related or a BSD topic, something that's really heavily associated with it, ZFS is one that comes to mind that I'm definitely going to cover in the near future. Leave it in the comments below. I always like hearing back from you. For all of those that just joined me this week and watch this video, I hope you liked it. If you have any friends that you think would enjoy this video or any of my channel, go ahead and send them on this way. You know, I'm really enjoying doing these BSD videos. They're teaching me. I realize that I have a weekly schedule that I have to keep, and I have to learn these new things. And I'm learning. I hope that you're learning something, or at least you think I'm funny or entertaining in some way. I obviously have to be those because while I love BSD, I didn't think it would be, popular enough to get more than 10 subscribers on YouTube, and now I'm up in the mid 80s, and that's actually really cool. I'm really appreciative to all the people that want to hear me talk about this stuff. So if you have anybody that you know that you'd like it, send them over to subscribe. Once we get to 100 subscribers, I think I can change the name of my channel and the URL above from a random hash to /BSD Synergy, which would be really cool, and it's kind of a goal for me. So let's see if we can get to 100 subscribers by this time next week. That being said, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and I'll see you next week.